It's another Champions League special for us this week as we look ahead to Wednesday's league phase decider with all 36 teams in action at the same time. We'll take a look through some of your comments, and we've got 6 best bets on a regular pod treble from our panel of betting experts to go over after another profitable week last time out. All that and more on today's show. Hello and welcome to the Football Betting Pod, powered by Betting Expert. I'm your host, Daniel Jenkins, joined as ever by Betting Expert's football editor, Sam Ingram. How are we doing, Sam?
Very good. How are you doing?
Good, mate. I seem to be seeing more of you these last couple of weeks than I have of anyone else in my life. So it's great. It's great.
That sounds bleak.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 2 pods a week every week for the past however long it's been. It's been great. It's been great.
Yeah, we've been smashing them out, and match day 8 in the Champions League, like, this is probably the one I've been looking forward to the most, to be honest. There is just so much riding on pretty much every game, bar 2. So, big match day.
Plenty to go over. And to do just that, we've drafted in Daniele Fiscella once again. How are you doing, man?
Hi, all good, thank you.
All good. And Scott Thornton joining us once more.
Yeah, very good. Let's get some more winners.
Yeah.
Who is on, by the way, who's on fine form? He said earlier that he's in better form than Alexander Isak, so can't argue with him. Can't argue with it.
Can't argue with it. Let's hope he keeps it going with his picks today. But before we do that, we said last week we wanted Sammy to put a shout out to try and get some comments in the Spotify feed, and there were bloody loads, weren't there?
Yeah, so there was. There was a lot.
Any standout ones from you?
Well, considering we get like 0 comments, it was nice to have a fair few knocking about. The standout for me, because I did go and have a little bet following on from seeing his comment, was pretty straightforward. But Isak plus 2 goals, trying to find it. Steve said, another great listen. Cheers, Steve. Going for Isak to run riot, to score anytime, 2+, and why not tickle the hat trick? So 2+ landed at a pretty good price. So yeah, probably my standout, that one, I reckon.
Yeah, that looked good. Scott, you were saying off air as well, you backed another one of the tips coming in from the comments.
Yeah, so Paul was clearly a Mackham, so I hope this softened the blow. I backed the Isidore goal as well, so that came in quite easily. It's a shame that the Plymouth scored, but there we go. But yeah, thank you, Paul. Thank you. It was good bet, nice winner, and keep listening.
Yeah, good shout from Luke Ash as well, going for Donny against Harrogate. But I would like to flag SBU or Spew's comment. Who said that he loves that the show doesn't go over 45 minutes. Clearly, not a long-time listener. There were plenty of shows that went well beyond an hour.
I love the fact that he praises when we don't speak. So that's great. It's a great comment. One of those backhanded comments. Thanks, Booth. We do our
great
best.
show. Glad you don't talk too much, but great show.
Let's try and live up to that and get below 45 minutes this week just to keep at least one listener happy. So should we just jump straight into the tips? Sorry, Sam, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I'm going for Dinamo Zagreb versus AC Milan. I'm going for over 9.0 Asian corners at 1.90. So along with Inter Milan and Monaco, the under over 9.0 Asian corner line in this game is the lowest offered by Bet365 for match day 8. And in pricing corners this way, for me, I think Bet365 are overlooking how this final fixture is poised and what it means for both clubs and how both clubs essentially need to win. So looking at the lay of the land, there are 11 teams tightly bunched on 12 to 14 points below AC Milan on 15 points in 6th place. The likelihood is that AC Milan simply have to win to lock in a top 8 position. I can't really talk in absolutes because it's not a guarantee that they won't get top 8 if they draw, but it is very unlikely. So with a draw presumably not doing anything for AC Milan, especially considering 7 of the 11 sides within striking distance also hold a 4+ goal difference or greater. If a couple of those teams below AC Milan win and AC Milan don't, then they'll just swap places with AC Milan in the top 8. So basically a long-winded way of saying AC Milan have to win. And Zagreb away is the assignment for AC Milan. Fabio Cannavaro's Croatian champions, Dinamo Zagreb, They sit 2 places and 2 points shy of the top 24. So as well as AC Milan needing a win, this is all or nothing for Dinamo Zagreb. A draw simply won't do. And without 3 points, their Champions League campaign is over at the first hurdle. So with that mindset, I would like to think that AC Milan are probably granted the opportunities to counter and pick Dinamo off at will. This is the home side's 3rd game in 7 days following a winter break return. And in terms of maybe stature of the two clubs, experience, know-how, playing staff, financial muscle, all of the ingredients maybe one usually needs to progress in this competition. AC Milan clearly have that and Dinamo don't, but that doesn't mean this is a foregone conclusion, but it does explain why AC Milan are 1.5 to win in Croatia. And I think we've probably got to remind ourselves just how good AC Milan's Champions League campaign has been to date. So after 2 defeats to kickstart the competition versus Liverpool and Leverkusen, Milan are now on a 5-game win streak from matchday 3 to matchday 7. Club Brugge, Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, Slovan, Crvena Zvezda and Girona, they've won the XG battle in 4 out of 5 of those, and also racked up 2.45 XG versus Real Madrid, who only just edged the underlying contest. And I had one of my biggest bets of the season on Real Madrid in that game. It was Real Madrid -1 Asian handicap, because they'd just been pumped by Barcelona 4-0 in their own backyard and needed a response. So I was watching the game, convinced that they'd put a show on at the Bernabeu, and then Milan rocked up and they were good value for that 3-1 win. Really impressive. And overall, it's been a hugely impressive campaign for them. So everything I've just spoken about, AC Milan having to go for the win, I think they'll get a little bit of joy, and the home team as well needed a win. I don't see why this wouldn't be back and forth. I don't see why there wouldn't be a lot of action in either team's defensive third. So having the corner line that low, 9 corners gets us a refund, 10 corners gets us a winner. Yeah, it was the standout prop for me on match day 8.
Yeah, looks good. Looks good. Betting predictions for this game given 0.74 projected goals for Zagreb, 2.14 for AC Milan. That would give a goal total of -1.41. Asia handicap of 1.41. Bet365 giving AC Milan -1, so potentially a way in. Betsy certainly favouring Milan more than the bookies. So, Sam, if I had to push you, it has been a tricky couple of weeks, or a tricky week for Zagreb, as you said, and that poor form does go back a little bit further in the Champions League. It's 3 straight Champions League matches without a goal. These two sides met in the Champions League back in 22-23 in the group stage. Milan won home and away, 4-0 win away at Zagreb that season. Are you expecting a pretty comfortable win? Are you concerned that maybe AC Milan just stomp ahead, get a couple of goals, and then shut up shop, and you don't see those corners start ticking up?
Not massively concerned, Dan, though, to be honest, because and we'll see it a lot in many of these games on match day 8, if AC Milan do sit back and try and shut up shop, Zagreb have to give absolutely everything. There is no point in knocking the ball around and not kind of chucking the kitchen sink at it. And if they do that, then like I said, they'll leave themselves exposed. And I've got the corner stats here. I'll run through them quickly because they're not thrilling. So 9+ corners has landed in 89% of Zagreb's games and 71% for AC Milan in this edition of the Champions League. And I just suppose regardless of corner totals, like the game state moves this into a kind of different encounter. When we see a goal, the earlier the better. The opposing team will have to advance up the pitch and apply pressure in that final third. And in turn, that should leave the aggressors susceptible on the counter. And as we know, fast breaks, counter-attacks often lead to shots, goal kicks, corners, just general action in the final third. So yeah, with this, how this game is poised, we might even see maybe 3, 4, 5 corners in the final 10, 15 minutes with that desperation seeping into the final stages. And if that happens, then I'm pretty comfortable we'll get 9+ for the entire game.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Sam's first tip of the show is over 9 Asian corners in Dinamo Zagreb versus AC Milan. That's a 1.90 with a full unit on it. Now, when the Champions League format changed and we had these new fixtures come up, and the match day 7, match day 8 in the league phase in early January, I don't think there were many people expecting an all or nothing game for Manchester City lying down in 25th place. They take on Club Brugge this weekend, and Scott and Daniele have both got bets on it. So, Daniele, do you want to take it away and set us up for this match and your selection?
Yes, all or nothing, which makes it very, very interesting, really, something we were not used to see before, at least with Manchester City. Now, Manchester City, if they win, they do qualify because they got a better goal difference than Club Brugge. So, in a way, they're very lucky to be handed this draw in the last match day of a very poor campaign. Now, looking at our projections, Manchester City have an 80% chance of making to the playoff, suggesting they are likely to win this game 1 or 2-0, for example. But also, interestingly, Bruges, who've got 11 points, have a 92% projection to advance. So therefore, our model suggests they both gonna advance. How can they both advance if Manchester City wins? Well, it will probably take one of the teams that are below Club Brugge in the league at the moment, Benfica, PSG, Sporting, Stuttgart, as well as Dinamo Zagreb, not to win their games or to get beaten. And of course, the fact that PSG and Stuttgart play each other plays a little bit into Club Brugge hand. It's very complicated. The permutation are going to be difficult. I think you'll need 3 calculators on Wednesday really to understand what's going on. But ultimately, Bruges need to avoid being defeated 5 or 6 nils in Manchester. And if they do that, if they keep the scoring relatively low, which I think against this Manchester City team is probably doable, they are through to the playoff. So the angle here is to bet on a Manchester City win. I know it's not been the most obvious of results this season, but couple it with a low scoring game. Belgians have averaged 0.83 expected goals in the Champions League away from home. The suggested goal line by bets is 3.14. Very, very low for a Manchester City home game. Therefore, I would go with a bet builder. Manchester City to win, under 5 goals, and Erling Haaland to have 0.5 shots on target. Erling Haaland is in fine form for Manchester City. Altogether, that brings it to 190. So a Manchester City win 3-1, which I think is still a high scoring game considering the standard, with Erling Haaland to have 1 shot on target lands you 190, which almost doubles your stake. I think is a good one to go.
Yeah, just a quick pushback on it, Daniele. The mentioned the Betsy projections there, which I fully agree with. These two sides did meet back in 21-22. Admittedly, that was a stronger Manchester City side.
Yes.
City won 4-1 at home and 5-1 away. Looking more recently, obviously they've been struggling for form, but a lot of City's worst results have come away from the Etihad. At home, last 3 games, admittedly, one of them was against Salford City. But as we saw against Chelsea, they were capable of scoring goals. Erling Haaland looks like he's finding a little bit of form, but they've grabbed 15 goals in the last 3 home matches. Are you worried that maybe they just kick on a little bit? And given the game state, given the fact that they have to win and they have to win fairly convincingly, they may just, fire up the burners and start grabbing goals, and we see another Champions League pummeling at home for City.
To address your concern about the 21-22 season, those games were match day 3 and match day 4 when Manchester City needed to go for the points. That's why they rack up the high wins. But as you mentioned, there was a different side back then. We know they got goals in them as well, but I think they will be much more concerned not to concede the early goal, knowing they can score in the second half, or if the game is tied at 1-0 or 1-1, they can push on. Really, it's all about winning here. And considering also this is a Manchester City squad that will not have the new signings in them because they cannot register them before February. So no Mamouche and no the other players they have signed. Kurzago, of course, starting at the weekend. I think this is going to be a routine win, a professional win. But I don't expect Manchester City to go crazy and go all out in attack and leave guts at the back, because I mentioned 1-0 win does it for them, and that's all it matters. They cannot win the Champions League on Wednesday, but they can definitely lose it. So yeah, I think it's as the old cliche goes, 1-0 win probably. That's the 2-0 win, 3-0 win. I think that's far in their reach, I would say.
I think the fact they go to Arsenal at the weekend probably plays in their hands a little bit as well. There's definitely going to be if they go 2-0 up, they'll have one eye on the weekend. I know the Feyenoord result will ring in the memory, but I don't really see them opening up like that again. The fact they've got Arsenal probably helps you.
Yeah, certainly big game for them in the Premier League on the weekend. Look, to be honest, I'd much rather be on under 5 goals in this game than over 2.5 or something, because, as you said, I think both sides would probably be happy with a 1-0 win for City here and just shake hands and hope they both get through. Daniele's pick for Manchester City versus Club Brugge is under 5 goals, a City win, and Erling Haaland over 0.5 shots on target. That's a 1.90. Scott, same game. How do you see it going from the props perspective?
Yeah, same game, and I'm going to back under 21.5 free kicks. And as you rightly say, it's an important fixture, but try not to get too caught up in it. It's a bit of a mismatch. City are 1.18 on the 1x2 market. They really should be winning this fixture. I know they've had some poor results this season, but I just don't see this going any other way than City controlling the game and getting a very composed victory. So I'm along the same school of thought as Daniele, really. I think we'll see a professional performance. But my angle is based on free kicks. City matches have seen the fewest fouls in the Champions League with an average of 16.14. Obviously, the free kick market includes offsides, 3.29 offsides in City games, taking the total to 19.43. So a couple below the under 21.5 line here. A bet that's landed in 4 of their 7 Champions League matches. Even though it was complete chaos, a game against Feyenoord, there were only 21 free kicks in that match, and I think this will be a lot more controlled, as I say. The PSG game was built up as a final. It was a fantastic game of football with 6 goals, but there were still only 23 free kicks in that one, and I think 4 offsides, so we weren't exactly seeing the challenges fly in, and I just think we'll see a very low count here. You mentioned the previous meetings, Brugge at City in 2021. There were just 9 fouls and 4 offsides in that fixture, which is incredibly low. And the more recent numbers for Brugge are actually quite promising as well. They're 13 fouls in their last Champions League away game and under 21.5 landed in their last 2 Champions League away games as well. So again, I think we could see more like 16, 17 free kicks here if City were to grab an early goal at 1-0. And as you say, Dan, both teams happy to shake hands at that point. That could really help us if we're just seeing 2 teams going through the motions, knowing that this is working for them. And I'm sort of hoping for that as well, but the numbers themselves do just makes sense.
Yeah, I like it, Scott. And as is, potentially both teams going through, we could have playoff matches for both of them, match day 9 and match day 10 in the next couple of weeks. So nobody's going to want to pick up any suspensions, any injuries. So yeah, is that coming into your thinking as well? The fact that there are going to be 2 more games for potentially both of these teams before we even get to the knockouts?
Definitely, as I touched upon there, with City having a difficult game at the weekend, and it is the business end of the season coming up, isn't it? And the fact that both of these teams can really come away with the result they're happy with. You do see the games towards the end of the season. Normally, it's never like this, but it could just hit the stage where City are dominating possession and Brugge are quite happily having their 2 banks of 5 and just sitting there and allowing them to knock the ball around, and the foul count will dwindle when that happens.
Yeah. Scott's pick for Manchester City versus Club Brugge is under 21.5 free kicks in the match. That's a 1.83. He's got 1 full unit on that. Sam, back over to you for your pick for what is probably the outstanding fixture on match day 8, at least on paper. Could be hugely entertaining. Barcelona versus Atalanta.
Most definitely. Yeah, I echo your thoughts. It should be a very good game. Liverpool and Barcelona are the only 2 teams mathematically guaranteed a spot in the top 8. So if Barca beat Atalanta and Liverpool lose, Barca will finish top of the league phase with a superior goal difference. And I just wonder how important that is to Barcelona and whether they rotate here. That, really, if you're looking at it from a workload point of view, there is no need to add another game to the legs of some of these players. They've played, like all the top leagues, they've played a ridiculous amount of football. It's the same story with the Liverpool squad. Arne Slot should rotate there. They played a very, very strong team against Ipswich at the weekend. And this game specifically, if Atalanta wins the game, they will secure a top 8 finish. If they don't win, they are likely out of the top 8. Betsy has their hopes of finishing in the top 8 at 26.9%. So that's obviously leaning on the fact that Atalanta need to win away at the Nou Camp, which is not easy. They might be able to do that. They might not, but they're definitely going to have a good go in doing so. And Atalanta and Gasperini will be fully aware of Barcelona's weakness. We know Barcelona can score and create goals at will. They beat Valencia 7-1 at the weekend, their Achilles heel was obvious. It's that back end of the pitch. It's that defensive third. And did anyone watch Benfica versus Barca last week? Because, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It was about her, and it was a ridiculous game of football, actually. They conceded 4 goals in a 5-4 win on match day 7. And from minute 1, if you think back to the first goal, the back line was all over the shop. One ball took out Barca's high line, and then it was 3 versus 2 in the box when the cross came in. The second Benfica goal, again, just a hopeful ball over that high Barca back line. And the keeper and a centre-half ran into each other, and Pavlidis ran it into an empty net. That high line is there to be exploited. That's not me, saying anything too outlandish. It's obvious if you're into your football and you watch some of Barca's games. And yeah, there were so many occasions where Benfica had a numerical advantage in the final third, and they were able to create high-quality opportunities from it. Bit of a ridiculous game, like I said, but Barca has previous for it. That second half of Dortmund-Barca, the 3-2 before Christmas, was very similar. And if you look at Barca's stats in the competition, they've only mustered 2 clean sheets against Young Boys in Brest, though they're only 2 shutouts from the 7 matches to this point. And domestically, Barca have kept 4 clean sheets in 21 La Liga matches, split 2 at home and 2 away. And they've conceded 24 goals in 21 games in the Spanish top flight. So they don't really keep clean sheets, and we can see why. So I've landed on Atalanta goals, and again, Dan, corners given the game stay is Atalanta to score 1+ goals, and Atalanta over 3.5 corners at 2.10.
I was quite surprised when you put the selection up that those were the odds. Like I thought when you put it down, I thought it was over 1 goal and over 3.5 corners for both teams, because that would make a bit more sense. But what's the thinking with the corners? Is it just that it's going to be an open game? It's going to be end to end? I was half expecting a goals angle here, because they're 2 of the 3 highest scoring teams in the competition. Barcelona scored 5 or more goals in 4 of the last 5 games in all competitions. So
that's ridiculous.
Potentially Chesney and goals as well. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah, no, I was really close to putting Atalanta 2+ goals up here. I think it was 2.20. I think that's a really good way into this game. But we've seen in this competition already, they limited Bayern to 1 goal at the new camp. Yeah. Who else did they beat at home at the new camp? I can't remember, but they've had some good results, and I don't think they conceded 2 against the bigger boys at home. So I was just a little cautious in that respect. And overall, I think Atalanta can hurt them first and foremost, especially if we see a rotated 11 and Barca maybe aren't quite at it given the circumstances. With Atalanta got nothing to lose, a draw not being good enough, for me, that should really see them score a goal and in turn sustain pressure in that final third, which usually ends in corners. And with these corners angles, Atalanta needing a win might mean that they're looking for a goal or looking for the winner for long periods. And again, in those final 10-15 minutes when they might have to throw everything at it, that can really work in our favour here from a corners perspective. And really, I just trust Gasperini to come up with a game plan that hurts Barcelona, and we don't need them to win. We just need regular, constant pressure at that end of the pitch. And I think we should be okay. They've been scoring plenty in the competition against good sides, 2 away in Stuttgart, 6 at Young Boys, 2 versus Madrid, 5 Sturm Graz last week. And Matteo Retegui is back scoring goals up top. He's got 5 goals in his last 4 games, including a brace on the weekend. So yeah, I'd expect them to have a bit of joy. And if you look at Atalanta's corners per 90 average in the Champions League, it's 6.43 per 90, so way over the mark. And Barca are quite stingy in that respect. They're averaging 3.29 against. But again, the game state might determine that the previous averages, goal averages, corner averages, whatever, it might not really make any difference. It might not matter because the way this game will shape up is different to usual. So I think I'm happy with that 1+ goal and over 3.5 corners at odds against. Yeah, thought it was a pretty good price.
Yeah, it's a good price. You mentioned Barcelona's defensive record there. They've conceded 11 goals in the Champions League this season. Just 1 of them have come at the Camp Nou. That's Harry Kane's goal back in October. Betsy projections for this game give Barcelona 2.06 goals to Atalanta's 1.25. The 3.31 expected goals total is, I think, the 3rd highest in the match day. But some of those, that's obviously upset by Bayern Munich coming up against Slovan Bratislava, like the big sort of mismatches in this competition. So yeah, fully expecting a highly entertaining match.
Sure.
When Barcelona take on Atalanta. Sam's second pick is Atalanta's over 3.5 corners and 1+ goals. It's a 2.10 with a full unit on that. Speaking of Bayern Munich versus Slovan Bratislava, Daniele, do you want to take it away with your second pick?
Yes, this is all about goals, bearing in mind that the goals average this season is higher than the last season. So obviously the new format has delivered because there is a greater importance in the goal difference. And one of those teams that really need to rack up the goals are Bayern Munich, because at the moment they're outside of the top 8 and they can hope to finish in the top 8 if they beat Slovan Bratislava, which shouldn't be difficult, but also they beat them very, very largely with a large win. Therefore, this one it's all about the goals for Bayern Munich. They do need a big win, as we mentioned. They did a big win 9-2 against Dinamo Zagreb earlier, but I think here playing against a team that has conceded 24 times the worst defense in the competition, you need to back Bayern Munich to score and to score early, to score before the minute 17, which notably they've only done once in the Champions League so far this season, away at Shakhtar. In that famous 9-2 win against Dinamo Zagreb, they scored after 19 minutes, but they had chances before. So that's why the line has been set to 17 minutes. But that was match day 1. This is match day 8 with Slovan Bratislava also in the middle of a winter break, being the poorest team in the competition. I think there are all sorts of factors. I mean, as I said before, the calculation, the permutation is going to be very difficult, but they're very easy if you score early and if you lay down a mark early. So I would expect also teams like Real Madrid, for example, to get off to a fast start and score early and make sure they are in front early. So are the other teams who have to worry about your goal difference and not vice versa. So I think Bayern Munich here scores 4 or 5 in this game. Probably there are also flurry of late goals, but I do like the goal before the 17 minutes. Really, 183 for them to take an early lead. So yeah, I think that would be also. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that they have to take a lead. They can concede after 1 minute and then score after in the following minute, as long as they score a goal before 17 minutes. And I think that's a great caveat for you if you think they might get caught cold. I don't think so.
Yeah, of course. There's you said that Bayern haven't scored too many goals too early this season in the Champions League, but of course the two teams playing Slovan aren't strong starters, are they? They've conceded 4 times in the opening 15 minutes alone of their matches so far this season, the second highest in the competition behind Sparta Prague. Yeah, so are you leaning more on Slovan for this or Bayern for this? Like, is it, are you expecting Slovan to concede or Bayern to score?
No, I'm expecting Slovan to concede. I'm expecting these teams, Bayern, Borussia, Real Madrid, all these teams that need goals to try and score as early as possible with favorable fixtures. Bearing in mind that yes, of course, the mismatch is huge. I don't see why Bayern should concede. Also, the record in the Bundesliga is good, but again, I said, should they concede? I mean, I think they respond straight away.
While we're on the topic of this game, I have to bring it up. What's the shortest price you've ever seen a goal scorer bet? I'm genuine question, because Harry Kane is 1.12 with William Hill to score a goal.
Shortest I've seen in the Champions League, I think.
Yeah, I think I've seen shorter against the likes of San Marino, but this is ridiculous. 1.12. You can get 4.5 on the hat trick. It's pretty much a banker if he stays on the pitch.
That's just outrageous. I was looking earlier, and like you wouldn't be able to pick a goal scorer in that game. And although the assist prices are quite short, then they might be backable if the bookmakers expect loads and loads of goals, which I'll probably do. You can get Musiala assist at 2.37, Michael Elise assist at 2.10. Like again, quite short. Usually they're 3-4 to 1. But if you're expecting loads of goals and you really want to get involved, then maybe that's the way to do it.
Yeah, I think I will have a look at that when the team's come. Elise looks good for one.
Yeah, he's had 6 assists in the Bundesliga, 1 in Champions League. So, yeah, good for an assist in that front line, definitely.
Yeah. certainly a few picks to keep an eye out for. Betsy projections for this game, 4.32 projected goals for Bayern Munich. So can probably see why the odds are so short for some of these players to get on the score sheet. But Daniele's second tip of the show is Bayern Munich to score before 17 minutes. That's a 1.83 with the full unit on that. Scott, over to you for another very important match towards the top end of the table. One of the teams that Bayern could potentially leapfrog are Aston Villa, but they take on Celtic at home.
Yeah, this should be a decent game. Celtic, they've struggled away in Europe. They haven't scored yet in away games, but they've got a slim chance of the top eight, I believe. I have been through all the permutations this morning, but a seeded draw for the playoff is the most likely aim. So they're just going to try and stay competitive here. But I'm backing over 33.5 tackles in the match, and there's definitely a little bit of vibes about this one as well. Celtic in Europe, and it seems to be a decent. Well, there is a decent tackle count, and I just think the magnitude of the game, they'll take a good following down there, and it should be a really decent atmosphere, a really good game. I think Villa will ultimately win, but Celtic will dig in. The average amount of tackles in the Champions League phase this season is 33.55, so pretty much bang on what I'm asking here, 33.5. But what it does become more interesting is that Celtic matches are averaging 36.14, which I believe is the seventh highest in the competition at this stage. Over 33.5 is won in 5 of their 7 Champions League games, and they were 46 against Young Boys last week, I should say, not the weekend. Young Boys obviously are a lot worse than Aston Villa, but I just think the magnitude of the competition, the fixture will carry us through. Villa Champions League matches overall have seen 33.86, but this rises to 40 in their home Champions League matches, landed in the last 2. In the Premier League, Villa matches have seen an average of 35.47 tackles, so above the 33.5 as well. And there were 58 in their 1-1 draw with West Ham at the weekend. Admittedly, I think a lot of that is to do with the way Potter's trying to set West Ham up, really trying to harass them. But I do think Celtic will approach it in a similar way. Brendan Rodgers is quite single-minded in the way he likes to play. Obviously, Celtic don't have the players the West Ham have, but I do think we'll see a decent amount of intent. I don't expect them to do what I mentioned Brugge might do and sit there with 2 banks of 5 and absorb pressure for too long. Obviously, they might have to in phases, but it's not something I'm particularly worried about in long periods of the match. So 33.5 seems quite low, particularly when Villa matches this season are averaging more like 36 across all competitions. So
yeah, it's the first meeting between these two clubs, which is actually quite surprising considering the sort of histories of the two of them. Betsy, bookmaker projections give Villa -1 handicap with the goal line set at 3.0. Now, Aston Villa -1 is actually Betsy's best bet for Champions League match day 8. Betsy puts the goal difference, projected goal difference should be 1.57. So 2.34 projected goals for Villa, 0.77 projected for Celtic. So looking at the match a bit more specifically, Scott, are you going along with Betsy here and predicting a pretty convincing home win?
Yeah. So I've got it noted down. Villa have kept 3 clean sheets at home in the Champions League, and they've obviously hosted Bayern as well. And Celtic have drawn the blank in 3 of their away games. So I could see a 2 or 3-0 game. That doesn't mean the Celtic are not going to put their best foot forward and put in a performance, if you know what I mean. Just because they're not good enough, it doesn't mean that we won't see some fight from Celtic, and they'll be largely happy with the way their Champions League campaign has gone so far. So just to dig in, and eventually if they come undone by two goals, and it is what it is. Ultimately, they don't have the quality that Villa have, but there'll be plenty of intent.
The handicap was on my list. It was going to be one of my bets. However, so last night, Tyrone Mings got injured. Pau Torres is out injured. They've just showed Diego Carlos. I don't actually know who's going to partner Konza at centre half. It might have to be someone who, one of the kids, or maybe someone from midfield. So that's a bit of a concern. And also, they looked really leggy in the second half against West Ham. West Ham could have nicked it at the end. That's a pretty poor West Ham team as well. So that is a concern. And Celtic as well. Their stadium was, with the winds in Scotland, their stadium was, I don't know, something happened to the roof. So they had a weekend off. So they will be rested coming into this. So it's put me off a little bit. If it dropped down to maybe a minus 0.75, because it is drifting a little bit, then maybe I'll take it. But yeah, just a few concerns there if you're looking at getting into that game.
Yeah, they are looking quite short on the defensively. Aston Villa, I think he was Ian Matson came on, didn't he? I was watching the game on the weekend. He came on, I think he sort of filled in defensively. So could see goals at both ends, to be honest. I don't know if it will be quite as convincing as maybe Betsy projects, but Scott's pick for Aston Villa versus Celtic is over 33.5 tackles. That's a 1.80 with the full unit on that. Sam, do you want to take it away with your entry to the pod treble, please?
Yeah, following on from Daniele in Bayern v Slovan, really like that angle. And similarly to Real Madrid and Borussia Dortmund, Bayern need to win here and win well. They need to massage those goal difference stats and hope that results go their way. If those stars align, then they'll get top 8, but it is really slim chances of qualification. Betsy has them at 8.8% chance of qualification. So I think how this game plays out, it should really fit the same kind of mold that we've seen from Bayern so often when they play this level of opponent, camped inside Slovan's half with relentless pressure in the final third. And Scott's mentioned it, the prices here tells the story of what the bookmakers are expecting to happen better than I could. Bayern Munich 1.12 to score 3 goals, to win 0.01, Harry Kane 1.25 to find the net. So assuming that the game will be played in Slovan's half, the likely outcome is that there will be goals, Bayern will win, people will score, but alongside that, there should be a growing corner count. So this is the third corners bet I've put up. I'm going with Bayern win the first half and over 3.5 first half Bayern corners. That's the bet. They've played one game in this Champions League edition against what you would describe as minnows of the competition in Dinamo Zagreb. That game ended 9-2, 29 shots to 4, 12 corners to 0. They won the first half 3-0 and recorded 8 corners to 0 in the opening 45 minutes. So I see this developing similarly, and considering the game state, Bayern needing goals and a slice of luck, it should see them on top throughout the whole 90 minutes, especially in the opening stages as they look to assert control on proceedings. So yeah, I think Bayern's going to be camped in that defensive third. We should see a few goals and we should really see a few corners. So yeah, Bayern win the first half, over 3.5 first half corners for Bayern.
Yeah. That's a 1.72. It's the first entry into this week's pod treble. Scott, do you want to give us the second, looking at Brest versus Real Madrid?
Yeah, this is one of the more boring bets I'll talk about on the pod. Brest versus Real Madrid, and on the back Mbappe to score. It's taken a while to sort of see Real Madrid find their feet with Mbappe. As you could say, the signing of Mbappe probably put them on a different sort of wavelength at the start of this season, having the 4 ultra-talented forwards. But Carlo Ancelotti's a great manager, and while he'll always have criticisms tactically because they just sort of let them get on with it, it's a bit difficult to reduce such a great manager's work to that. But Real looked really, really dangerous. I thought the Super Cup could have been their undoing. That 5-2 defeat, another hammer at the hands of Barcelona. Interestingly, Mbappe was the only one that didn't come away with scathing criticism from that game, really. The papers in Madrid gave him a decent rating. He scored the opening goal. And since then, he's been scoring for fun. Obviously, we could talk about how good Mbappe is for days, so I just thought I'd bring up some stuff from FB Ref and how interesting this was. He's in the 99th percentile for quite diffuse statistics. Successful take-ons, progressive carries, touches in the opposition box, progressive passes received, and shots. He's just an absolute menace. And the way that Real are set up with those 4 players, they rotate so well. How do you even pick them up? You can't mark them out of the game. They can all play in all areas of the forward line. And I just think Mbappe's really benefiting from that. He's now got 8 goals in his last 5 competitive matches. I was big on Lewandowski at the start of the season. I tipped him on a piece we did for top scorer in La Liga, and I thought he was running away with it. And Mbappe's really fought his way into contention after the hat-trick of the weekend, 2 goals behind him in La Liga. And I'm sure he'd like to get more in the Champions League here. Obviously, in a couple of nightmare performances, the one at Anfield sticks out. And I think he'll remedy that here. Real, it's worth noting, do need a win. Real are looking to get that seeded spot. It'd be unthinkable for Real to get a nasty draw if they are in that playoff. So they're going to look for an emphatic win. I know Brest have done pretty well, but Real Madrid in the Champions League, it'd take a lot to put me off back in Real Madrid. I know they haven't been at their best, but they're looking like a team that has found their stride, and Mbappe was certainly worth whatever the outlay was, whatever they're paying him, because he is looking at his best.
Yeah, still an outside shot of Madrid sneaking into that top 8 as well. Couldn't rule it out. 2.52 projected goals for Real Madrid in this game. Let's hope that Kylian Mbappe can grab one of them. Daniele, give us your suggestion for the treble, please, and close it off.
I'm going for one of the two games that are meaningless with nothing at stake in the match day 8. Young Boys against Red Star Belgrade. But it's meaningless only if you look at the standings, because I do believe that a win in the Champions League means still a lot for a lot of many sides, especially to those who are not used to play in this competition. Now, Red Star Belgrade haven't won away in the Champions League, in the main stage of the Champions League, excluding the qualifying rounds, since 1992. That's an awful lot of games that they haven't won away, and most of them have been defeats. Now, a win away, a win in the Champions League brings you almost 2 million euros. A draw, half a million euros. The average value player market for young boys is around 2.3 millions. For Red Star Belgrade, around 3.5 millions. So winning this match means they can sign a player, basically. They can strengthen the squad and adds prestige to their team, to the club, adds valuable point to the UEFA coefficient. Winning a game is never meaningless for these teams. And I think this is the game where there's gonna be a winner. If you look at the Betsy projection, 37% chance of winning this game for either side. So you get a winner, which is over 78% chances that this game is going to end not with a draw. That's why I like it. And I think if it's a winner, it's not going to be a low scoring game. That's why I went for the goal line to be between 2 and 4, because these sides have got the second and third worst defense in the competition. Therefore, if the Star Belgrade wins 2-1, you win the bet. If Young Boys wins 2-0, you still win the bet, etc. I think this is going to be a good one. By the way, as a single, it goes by 2.10, a huge price in a game where they're going to push for the win. And I think this logic could be extended to other teams, maybe Girona playing against Arsenal, maybe Leipzig playing against Sturm Graz, or Sturm Graz as well, trying to score a goal. I think you look for heroics, winners in the last match day, even when it matters nothing, and that's why I went for this.
Yeah, with 18 games being played at the same time, I wonder how many neutrals are going to be watching that one. But maybe after this bet, a few more. Fingers crossed. Daniele's entry to the treble is Young Boys or Red Star Belgrade to win at a goal range of between 2 and 4. That's a 2.10.
Interesting there. Daniele said they haven't won away since 1992. Wouldn't they have been the holders of the competition then?
They would have. Yes, there was a win against Panathinaikos in the quarterfinal, but they haven't. Red Star Belgrade hasn't participated many times since in the Champions League. They've done a lot of qualifying stages, and I think this is the third or fourth qualification. But the last 3 or 4 times they qualified, they always lost away. They were always paired with tough teams, Napoli, Liverpool, etc. Obviously, when they do play at the Maracana, it's a bit different. But I think this is probably one of the easiest fixtures away they ever had in the Champions League. So again, one to just get off your system, get off your chest. Again, as I said, means pretty much nothing in terms of what is at stake, but even the prize money, it is significant. Almost 2 million euros for a team that clearly, they don't belong to the elite. Same for the Young Boys. They are 9th in the Swiss League, by the way. I think they desperately need to sign better players, and 2 million for a win sounds pretty good for me.
Yeah, and they're well clear at the top of the Serbian Superliga table, so there's a good chance we'll see them in the Champions League stage again next season. It'll be a lot easier to give those team talks going into away matches if you just ask the players cast their minds back to the win they had earlier in January. So, yeah, they'll want to win. Maybe not too many neutrals will be watching, but they'll want to win regardless. Let's do a recap of the bets from today's show, starting with singles from Sam Ingram.
Got over 9.0 Asian corners in Dinamo Zagreb and AC Milan. I have Atalanta over 3.5 corners and 1+ goal at 2.10 against Barcelona. And Bayern win first half and over 3.5 first half Bayern corners at 1.72 or full 1 unit.
Stuff. And Scott Thornton?
Manchester City versus Club Brugge under 21.5 free kicks at 1.83. And then Aston Villa versus Celtic over 33.5 tackles at 1.8, both 1 unit.
And Daniele Fitzgerald?
Manchester City win under 5 goals and Erling Haaland over 0.5 shots on target, 190, 1 unit. And then Bayern Munich to score a goal before the 17th minute at home to Slovan Bratislava at 183, also 1 unit.
Good stuff. And for the pod treble, Sam's entry is, as he said, Bayern win the first half and over 3.5 first half Bayern corners when they take on Slovan. Is Kylian Mbappe to score any time in Brest versus Real Madrid. And Daniele's is Young Boys or Red Star to win at a goal range of 2 to 4. That's at 2.10. Put all three of those bets together, you'll get odds of 6.65, which we will be tracking for a quarter of a unit. If you are going to be using any of the bets from today's show, then please gamble responsibly, only betting what you can afford to lose. Thank you, as ever, to Sam Ingram.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Thanks, Danielle.
Thank you. Enjoy the games.
And thanks from me. We'll be back later this week for yet another show.